So Springfield Armory's got a new gun on the market, the Hellcat Pro Comp, which is interesting because it doesn't technically have a compensator, but the Hellcat Pro Comp is the new skinny concealed carry gun with some kind of recoil mitigation built in at the factory. So the question starts to become, well, they've already got one of those. It's the Hellcat RDP that they released a couple years ago. Springfield Armory was one of the first people releasing a factory installed compensator and kind of made it become in vogue. You can see kind of the compensator that it has there, but it's got the little short slide. The Hellcat Pro Comp has the Hellcat Pro basically, but the front sight is moved back and there is a, chunk taken out of the barrel that lets the gas go up. But you probably have some questions. How does it shoot next to the Hellcat Pro? How does it shoot next to the RDP? How much velocity does it lose? Got all of those questions answered and more, but let's get started. Welcome back to the Humble Marksman channel. I'm David, and today we are looking at the Hellcat Pro Comp. Now, we are on the range. We are hiding from the rain a little bit. If you can hear the wind and rain, I apologize. But the Hellcat Pro Comp is a new offering from Springfield Armory, and it's actually pretty squared away from a value perspective. MSRP on this little 9mm gun is only $699. Now, if you're familiar with Springfield Armory, you know they're a brand that's sold at retail, so you can usually find them for less than that. So it's probably going to be closer to the $600 price point once it gets out on the street. And at that price point, you're getting two magazines. They are nice stainless steel bodied magazine. You've got the 15-round tube, which is pretty nice, and the 17-round tube, which has a bit of a thicker base pad. So the 17-rounder makes the gun a little bit longer. It's almost a full-size length in grip, but it is a little bit thinner, whereas the 15-round magazine is more flush, but you can get all of your fingers onto the gun to grip it. It's kind of a Goldilocks size pistol where it is large enough to get all your hands on, but at the same time, small enough where it's more comfortable and light enough to where it, conceals well and you can wear it all day. I'm sitting here in the rain. But I do sense there's some dads in the audience. And dads, if I could offer you this crisp high five, I would. I have a dad joke that my son actually made in light of the storms we've been having in Texas, and I feel obligated to share it with you guys. I'm proud of him. He's only 13. What do you call it when you lose 25% of your roof in a storm? Oof. You guys can get some mileage out of that one. If you could, just check and make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. YouTube likes to play games, so here we are. And a quick disclosure for you guys, this is a sample that was sent to me by Springfield Armory to do a review with. So I'm showing it to you guys now. I have no financial relationship with Springfield Armory, but I do like to disclose it if somebody gives me something. It came with a little shield sight on it. So now you know what I know about it. Doesn't mean they get a free pass. There's two things I think they do wrong. I'll talk about it in a second about the frames, but the other thing is I ride the slide stop on the gun. I can't get the slide to lock open when I shoot just based on how I grip pistols, even with my strong hand only. So those are two issues that I have with it. And aside from a slightly blocky grip, no big deal. Just touching on a couple things for those of you who aren't acquainted with the Hellcat Pro or the other Hellcat lineup. The texture that Springfield Armory uses, they pioneered on the Hellcat series of pistols a few years ago. And the harder you squeeze it, the more it bites into you, but it's not particularly abrasive when you just kind of touch it casually. So it's great for carry because it doesn't tear up your smooth, supple dad stomach. But at the same time, when you really squeeze and put a good squeeze on it, it bites down and doesn't let go and stays planted. It's the same texture that's on the Prodigy. It's honestly a pretty brilliant texture. Now, the grips on the Hellcats, and I think I've said this in past videos, it's kind of like if you took like the furring strips they sell at Home Depot. What we use is, Target sticks out there. And you were to kind of ease the edges and squeeze it, that's kind of what it feels like, but with this like texture applied. So it's not the most ergonomic and round thing, but it's not uncomfortable either. It definitely has a little bit of a blockiness, and there are subtle finger grooves that are on the gun, but they're honestly not obnoxious. The biggest problem that I have with the frame of this gun is they give you a thumb indentation kind of right there. And they've got the texture up high, which is good, but the problem is because it's indented, you can't get your support hand onto that part of the frame, which honestly is the most critical part of the frame for recoil mitigation. So it's kind of a lose there. And just a shooting tip for you at home there, this is an unloaded gun. Don't put your thumb right there. You're gonna wanna do it because that's gonna do it. But what that does is it creates a gap at the back of the pistol. So when you pull the trigger, which is a relatively heavy trigger, you're more likely to throw shots to the left and potentially down. What you want to do is flag your thumb up high like that. It's okay if you make superficial contact with the slide, and create a pocket where you can get your support hand as close to the frame as you can get it. And your support hand is what's going to absorb the energy as the slide's coming backwards and transfer it into the ground. So you want the best union of your support hand onto the gun that you can get. And by having this little channel right here, it's compromising my ability to plant my support hand onto the gun to soak up the recoil. So that is a bit of a drawback to the frame, but everything else about it is brilliant. One thing that I did notice when I was shooting it, you know, getting my sort of legs underneath me with the gun, getting the optic zeroed, was that I ride the slide stop when I use that grip. And honestly, on a concealed carry gun like this, I am completely okay with that. And the trigger, for what it is a pretty darn good trigger. I honestly don't know what the pull weight is, but it's what you would expect for a striker gun that is intended for concealed carry. It's in that same ballpark. But it has a nice wall at nearly 90 degrees, and then you pull through it. It does creep and kind of let go a little bit, and then it has, once you get to the true wall, the over travel is very little, but when you're just rowing on the trigger, it feels like there's a lot of over travel. The reset is a little bit long, but that's okay, honestly, for a gun with the intended mission of this gun, which is concealed carry, self-defense, and potentially home defense. As it does have a rail, you can actually mount lights onto the gun, which is all to the good. The way that the slide action kind of moves back and forth, it's very, very smooth. That's one thing about the XDM series of pistols as well, is it just the way they do their recoil spring and how the slide meets the frame is very good on the Springfield guns, and this one is no exception. There is the loaded chamber indicator hole right there, which can smoke the lens, but honestly, I've put a few hundred through the gun so far, and the lens on this Shield SMSC, the slide is cut for an RMS footprint optic. You can see that that gets the glass on the optic right on top of the slide, and you've got complete kind of co-witness there with the iron sights, and that's a really good setup, honestly. It makes the dot very intuitive to use. So far, the dot's been good, although it is an auto adjuster, but I haven't found anything it doesn't particularly like. Let's get into some of the shooting and see how the gun performs against its peers. All right, Hellcat Pro, rapid fire. All right, I mean, it's not bad to shoot. It's a little athletic, but I mean, most small light guns are athletic. Shoot the RDP and then the Hellcat Pro and see where we land. The slide being a little bit lighter makes the movement even more kind of athletic. I think I still prefer probably the way the Pro moves around versus the RDP. Let's see what the ported Pro looks like. I can say that I prefer the way the ported Pro probably shoots more than that. The sound behind the gun definitely is louder, but I still would prefer to shoot this over the RDP with the shorter slide, which is a little bit more athletic, and you know, it hits less in the hand. Let's do some A/B with the regular Pro to this one to really get a feel for it. All right, I've got both the Hellcat Pros here. I'm gonna shoot them, just shooting around on some steel plates that are, I don't know, 20 yards away. This Buffalo Creek ammo is surprisingly soft shooting. It's my first time shooting it, but it's pretty this little gun. Surprisingly so. Okay, got a feel for that. Let's try the Pro Comp now. Yeah, Pro Comp makes a big difference over the old Pro. Through the shooting, I can tell you right now that the Hellcat RDP with its little short grip, this is, I think, a 12-round magazine. Yeah, 12-round magazine. With its little pinky extension, it feels almost like the Hellcat Pro, but the grip kind of stops right there. If I use the 14-rounder that kind of extends the grip down, it feels much, much better. Pretty much exactly like the Hellcat Pro frame, but the slide is lighter weight and it just feels more snappy, more athletic. While it does have a true compensator that has kind of the up port and the bleed ports on either side and is probably using more of the gas, the slide is just so much lighter weight and moves faster. It's just, it hits in the hand appreciably harder than the new Hellcat Pro Comp. So I would say between those guns, I would actually favor the standard Pro or the Pro Comp especially. Now, the Pro Comp is a little bit louder behind the gun. That's one thing I noticed about it while I was shooting it. I imagine at an indoor range, if you're shooting it, it's not gonna make you any friends, especially with kind of like the steel armor plating of the target system right over your head. That noise is gonna go up, it's gonna hit that thing, and it's gonna hit all the people kind of around you. Whereas with, you know, a non-ported barrel, it's going to go down range, and I mean, still going to be loud, but it's not going to be as loud for the people standing around you as the Pro Comp. But the Pro Comp does have the advantage of being significantly softer shooting. I was very surprised how soft this shot. So the average 5-shot average with the Hellcat Pro was 1077.5, and the average with the regular Hellcat Pro, the Pro Comp is 1096 versus 1077.5. So approximately a 20 foot per second difference, which is really, really marginal considering how much softer the Hellcat Pro shoots, the Hellcat Pro Comp shoots versus the Hellcat Pro. This is pretty neat. Looking at the chrono results and the fact you're only giving up 20 foot per second on a 115 range load, that's negligible. It's almost nothing. So there's really not a downside from a performance standpoint. I don't think that would knock most hollow point ammunition out of a window of expansion, and the accuracy out of both guns was superb. This is a new optic. This is the Siley Cat optic that I mounted on this. I took the old, whatever the thing's called, the Wasp off. I got it zeroed, and both of these guns at 20 yards, I was able to cloverleaf if I held the gun really still. So the accuracy is pretty exceptional, but just, you know, for not a ton more money, the Pro Comp does provide shootability that the Pro doesn't have. So I can say definitively that I do think that the Pro Comp is the way to go if you want a gun that is softer shooting. Now, if you're new to the ported or comped game, just realize that in confined spaces, there is a lot more noise coming back to the shooter. If you're introducing new shooters who have smaller hands to it, you're probably going to want a double plug if you're at an indoor range. It's just the guns are louder, and that is kind of a downside to the gun. The amount of movement in the hand and how much quicker it is back to target is appreciable. It's an advantage that if you want a gun that's as maximally capable as you can get, I can definitely see this gun being an advantage over the regular Pro, which is in its own right a fantastic gun. Let's talk about reliability. Now, this is a bit of an abbreviated review. The gun came to me late, so I was not able to take it out multiple times and shoot it with a bunch of different types of ammo, but I was able to try it with a few different types of ammo. First and foremost, a range load. Buffalo Creek Ammunition provided some ammo. They make great 115 range loads, and that was a lot of what I shot. There were no problems there. Shot a box of 50 Igman 124s. It's a little bit of a stouter 124. It had no problems with it. Shot a box of Blazer 115, which is a very gentle 115. Honestly, you're not supposed to shoot out of ported guns because they use total metal jacketed, like plated bullets. Those don't perform as well with ported guns, but you can see the footage. It all ran just fine. I did test 4 different loads of hollow points, and you can see the results here. This is the ASP 115 hollow points. Didn't lock back, but not bad. This is 135 critical duty. Didn't lock back, but I think that's my grip at this point. This is 147 Hornady. Outstanding. And now, if it's going to break, it's going to break on these. It's Critical Defense Light. It is not very good in striker guns. Let's see what happens. Whoa, it runs it. Holy cow. So despite having the big barrel, it still works. That's pretty awesome. Big barrel, the hole in the barrel. The fact that this runs Critical Defense Light, which chokes basically all full-size guns, is pretty incredible. This is a very well set up gun from the factory if it can run Critical Defense Light, which If I've got a gun that's going to choke on something, it is always Critical Defense Light. So that is the Hellcat Pro Comp. Now, if you've made it this far into the video, I do think this video that I made about how to shoot guns more accurately kind of touched on it a little bit in this video. But if you've got issues shooting the gun left or potentially low, I think this video could help you out tremendously.